I'd like to call the March 3rd, 2025 Warrant and Finance Committee meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business is the Strive statement. All right, we work together as a committee that values the municipal budget process. We will strive to be fully present at the meetings by becoming familiar with the materials and being attentive. We will strive to invite and welcome the opinion and contributions of every member, to listen and be respectful to one another. We will strive to be involved to our level of comfort. Each member is responsible for airing disagreements during the meeting rather than carrying those disagreements outside the meeting. We will strive to operate in a collegial and friendly atmosphere, and we will strive to be responsible for examining all points of view and acting in the best interest of town meeting at all times. Okay. Next is the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Lori sent them over a few days ago.
Everything? I make a motion we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? I don't think there's any liaison reports, is there? No? All right. I put the review of the audit on the agenda. I'm not sure if that is something that you wanted to tackle tonight, or if you want to wait until you've had a chance to look at the hard copy. So whatever, I've gone through some of it. I do have some things that I have questions on, but I can certainly wait until everyone is ready. So what's the consensus?
I reviewed some of it, so.
I looked at some of it as well.
Yeah. Guess there's a lot to confidential stuff.
It is.
And
I was online and it was very difficult because
Yeah, it's hard.
I did have a question about something that I knew was addressed somewhere else, and it was very difficult to go back.
I think it's large enough, Leslie, that if anybody has any questions tonight, ask them, and if we have to go back to them later, because, you know, if we did a total review of this, we could be at it for a couple of hours, and I don't think any of us know enough to do that kind of a review. I think what was very interesting was the, and I mean interesting in a good way, as usual, the management letter, I believe, was excellent.
The only question while we have Tom and Jennifer here, that I was kind of focused in on was the restatement and of the 2023 year. And it sounded like it was a different gap presentation versus what had been done in the past, or maybe there's an explanation of why they had to go through the restatement.
Are you talking about the large one for like $600,000?
Yes.
Yeah. I asked about that. That restatement was in the full financial statements that were on a GAAP basis.
Yep.
And the adjustments had to do with the pension plan. I don't believe it affected the statements that we routinely look at the town and school level. You may recall they have town and school financial statements, balance sheet, and an income statement and some schedules attached to it that are like a modified accrual basis. Modified in that they don't have fixed assets, pension liabilities, and other kinds of things that really have nothing to do with the cash flow associated with the town. So, that's one set of statements, modified accrual. The full set of statements has all that other stuff, plus what's in the town statements. And those reclassifications were within that set of statements, affecting the pension plan, I've been told. I didn't go back and look at it, to be quite honest with you. I don't really, it's not something that interests me.
Does it affect our liability at any point?
I'm sorry?
Does it affect our liability at any point for what we would owe people who do retire?
I believe the reclassification was between fund balance categories. So it may, I don't know. What we should do is put the question to the auditor and ask them. Can you do that? Yeah, we'll find out.
Seemed like a very clean audit to me, other than understanding what that reinstatement is about.
I think we thought so.
Anything I have can wait, so I'm not going to. Yeah, I want to go through it and I can probably find a lot of my answers in the audit if I look.
I guess my thing on that, Leslie, is that, on the town side, if they get done, what should be done, they said they plan to have done, we'll be making all our recommendations, next week. And there's a good chance that'll be our last meeting.
Well, not necessarily. There may be some changes, and I did schedule another meeting for March 17th, which is the following Monday, just in case we do have anything that we need to wrap up. Because remember, last year, we did reconsider certain articles after the school meeting, because we voted on the municipal side after, before the school, we voted on the school. So,
After?
because we're supposed to be voting on the school on Thursday, I went ahead and contacted Jen to schedule another meeting on the 17th if we need it. So we do have a meeting scheduled.
Yeah, and if the warrant is all done, so we have it on Monday, because we're supposed to come up with the questions on the warrant tonight,
Right.
so we
Right.
have the answers for Monday. So if things go the way they should, we won't need that other meeting.
Unless the committee decides they want to meet to talk about the audit.
Okay,
So, I mean, we can always do that.
no, the committee do whatever they want, I'm
Right.
just pointing out
Yeah.
the schedule we got, unless we ask questions tonight.
So I did schedule that other meeting just to make sure that we had plenty of time to get our work done. And that meeting is reserved, for any reconsiderations we might have. So, we just wanted to play it safe.
Nothing like that.
All right. Anything else on the audit? No? All right, review of the preliminary warrant. So, the articles aren't numbered yet. But we'll still go down through them. All right, and the first one is to see if the town will authorize the select board to appropriate and expend monies up to a maximum of $15,000 from the general fund's unassigned balance fund for the purchase of equipment as they deem advisable to meet or to use as they deem advisable to meet unanticipated expenses and emergencies that occur during the fiscal year. Expenditures in excess of $5,000 shall require the advice and recommendation of the Warrant and Finance Committee.
I would ask, what's the difference between that and the $50,000 article down the road, Father? Seems to me it serves the same purpose.
And I also, thought it was unnecessary if we have $50,000. So that's basically giving the town 6,500, thousand, if both articles pass.
I mean, it's the same purpose.
The
You're
difference,
referencing-
there is a difference, as I understand it. The 5,000 is not carried, or those are not carried in the budget. They're sort of acknowledging that if there is an emergency, that's my read of it, that we can withdraw it from unexpended fund balance without any further approval, but review by warrant finance, as opposed to a contingency which is actually budgeted and funded when we calculate the tax rate.
So if you had an expense that went over, you would go to the 50,000 first, and once if that was used up and you needed it for additional purposes, this would be the second tier.
That's right.
Right, this is probably a little in advance, but with that $50,000 contingency, there's no oversight on that.
Well, the select board has, the way it was written, I believe the select board, it's not as though anybody can just expend it. It's approved by the select board, which are elected officials who are managing the town. I mean, whose authority do you think should review them?
Well, this article here that we're looking at, there's expenditures in excess of 5,000 shall require the advice and recommendation.
I believe this is the way it was written
The special town meeting?
in the special town meeting. We carried it over. If you don't like that language, that's fine, but you're certainly free to talk about it on Wednesday, and if the board decides to change it, that's fine, but
I think that should actually be in the $50,000 one too.
I would disagree with that.
no.
I think what they tried to do was to concentrate the general,
Isn't this authorized by state?
the general money that is miscellaneous into one category so that the Board of Selectmen can utilize it for whatever department may need it, versus in the past it was spread out throughout all the
Right,
departments.
And I understand that, but it's a rather large sum of money.
But it's a budget of $6 million, $50,000 is pretty minimal
It's pretty
from my
nothing.
perspective.
But
What-
It's-
Sorry, may I? Would the first one, if it's over 5,000, it goes out to bid, whatever it is, as other things do?
Right, we follow policy.
Yeah, it follows policy, and it would be the same thing on the 50,000?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This article was in there originally for emergency purchases, and that's
Right.
kind of what it focuses on, whether the heating system goes or something major happens, it's a purchase. But I've got your question, why this and contingency fund total, and we'll put it on Wednesday's agenda for the board to discuss.
Okay, yeah.
I
I mean,
understand what you're
and it depends too on your definition of contingency too,
Got it.
so,
but I believe it's really 65,000.
if the two articles pass.
Yeah.
So noted.
Would a definition of the equipment be something that would be town hall related? Like,
Yeah, based on the way it's worded, it could be any department. And it could be something at the transfer station, it doesn't have to be the town hall. And I would, I understand that you think that it's double, but I would, encourage you to make the request of looking at the last 10 years to see how many times we've actually used this. If I recall, only once that I can think of, so.
Yeah, it's been minimal.
Yeah, it's been minimal. I mean, we're not, we're trying to cover the town should something happen in any of the departments The contingency was raised primarily because of the transfer station and the increase that we're seeing in demos. They are unrelated, this one is primarily intended for purchases, but I see your point that you could possibly combine them for a total, so we'll bring it up on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, something, I thought I picked up at one point that this particular article had some basis in state law.
It's allowed by state law.
It's allowed by state law, specifically $15,000.
No, the town can set the amount, but you
They
have.
can set the amount, but it's tied to a specific state law
That'll allow-
that's why it's always been there. We've never had a contingency.
And we're lucky that we haven't used it, so we're not pulling from the unassigned fund balance.
I mean, they could have used it this year for the overage part of the overage over the transfer station.
It wouldn't have been enough.
No, I appreciate that, but it still would have offset. Some of
I
it.
think they both come from the same place, Dennis.
What's that?
The overage for the transfer station comes from undesignated fund balance as well as this. So it doesn't really, it's like they're both coming out of the same pot.
And knowing we had to pay it anyways, we saved you the step from having to have the meeting, because if you if you did have to have the meeting and approve 15,000, we still had another 15,000 we had to come up with the other place, and like Tom said, it's coming out of the same place.
I understand, I'm just saying you could have used it.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
all.
All right, anything else on this one? Joyce, you wanna read the next one? Just because I'm having trouble reading tonight.
Oh, sure. To see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to dispose of surplus town-owned equipment, except for road equipment, having an estimated value less than or equal to $5,000 on such terms and conditions as they deem advisable, and to execute any necessary documents to accomplish said purpose. All equipment estimated to have a value more than $5,000 shall be put out to bid. Proceeds received from such sales shall be placed in the general fund unassigned fund balance.
What's everyone's thoughts on that? I mean, this is pretty standard, we have this every year.
Madam Chairman, I would propose that we skip the next two articles and move down to the article with road commissioner wages. Because both those are really just housekeeping. The next two articles. We have to do it, but.
Yeah.
On
we're
that
not gonna
article,
change it
if I
for
could
it.
just ask a question,
Mhm.
probably to Jennifer. Anything else that we have that's between $1 and $4.999, you can just get rid of
Dispose
it,
of,
sell it
correct.
if you want, correct?
The old treasurer's desk.
I didn't hear the question. Anything between $1 and $4.999, you can do what?
Just, you can sell it, you can do what that does not take another article.
That's correct. Based on how this is worded, yes.
Yeah.
It starts at 5,000.
Right.
All right, so and then the other one is about when property taxes come due, which is in every year.
It's the same thing as every year. Yeah. And the one after that, again, property tax. Then we're on the second page, second half of the page. To see if the town will vote to pay wages and equipment for repairs, maintenance of public ways, according to the following schedule, rates by the hour.
You don't have to go read.
And I think everybody should just read those and let us know if you have questions.
What's the percentage increase for the road commissioner?
3.5%.
And I see there's no increase, I don't think it has been for quite a while, for the laborer, for the reimbursement for that.
But these were recommended by the road commissioner, the board hasn't discussed them in whole yet.
Yeah, these are Will's numbers on rates. except for his wage. He submitted all of these.
Right. Yeah, last year was $26.
So if that's what Will wants, it's,
I'm fine with his recommendation personally.
I mean, there was a discussion, that the select board asked him why he wasn't at state rates, because at some of them, he's not. And, just to summarize, Will said that this is what he thought was fair. Am I correct, Tom?
I believe we encouraged him
Yes, you did.
to look at them and consider going to the state rates, and he said, this is what I'm comfortable with, so.
Right, so
You know, these are-
the
these
select
are his
board,
numbers.
the
not
select board did, open the door for all of the rates to go up to state, and he said that this is what he wanted.
That was equipment rates,
Right.
and that is what I'm talking about.
You're not, well, that's.
It was not just equipment rates, it was all rates. To take a look at all of your rates. Equipment clearly was part of it, but to look at all of your rates and make sure that you were requesting enough so that you could find people and contractors, et cetera, to do the work that needed to be done.
So is that labor rate the same as it was last year, or was it increased by 3.5%?
That is the rate that Will wanted.
Is it increased from last
I
year?
don't-
is my
I'm
I'm
question.
gonna pull up last year's warrant, and it's just gonna be.
So does it have a 3.5% increase for labor?
You folks want to do that.
Yeah, I think that it's a valid point that if it was a salary line,
Let
we
him
might,
ask Will
yeah.
tomorrow.
So yeah,
I
let's,
suggest you ask Will tomorrow night.
Are we okay on that?
last year it was $25 an hour, so it went up to 26.
That's
I'm
more
fine
than-
with it.
It's more than
I'm
three
fine
and a
with it.
half. It's about 3.5.
All right, there's on the bottom, after those rates, it does say also, in the event the road commissioner is the operator of the equipment, a deduction of 3603 will be taken from the equipment rates listed above. The town will furnish cutting edges and bolts for the equipment used exclusively for winter maintenance on the town of Acton roads. Cost of operations, the above rates are based on fuel prices up to and including $5 per gallon. The town of Acton will pay an additional $1 per hour for each 25-cent increase per gallon for equipment utilizing diesel fuel. This will be based on the fuel price at Boonies and Shapley on each Sunday. Such price will determine the fuel allowance for the following week.
Does that fuel price, or the price per hour go down when the price of diesel fuel goes down?
Up to.
It says up
It only
to.
goes into effect if the prices are over $5.
Exactly, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if the price goes down to $4, does the additional price we're paying for the equipment go down also?
No.
No,
So, if it goes up to $6, we're gonna pay an extra $4 an hour for each piece of equipment that we use. But then if it goes back down to $5, the price we're paying for the equipment doesn't go back down.
Right, the rates are based on a $0 to $4.99 fuel price.
Right? And we give the increases when it goes up,
Right,
right.
but we don't do decreases when it goes down.
no.
We would, it would come back down based upon the price, and once it gets to $5 or less, then it's flatlined at these rates.
Yeah.
So if it goes up to 6, we'd be paying the extra
The extra.
$2.
Yeah,
and then when it comes back down to like $5.50, you're gonna pay a little extra. When it hits $5, you
No,
get back to the
they're
base
saying it
rate.
doesn't.
Well, it's set every week,
I know.
so
This
it's
is
a
the base.
premium. If you have to pay more for your fuel, it's a premium above the 5.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
But when the fuel goes back down,
The rate will come back down to
no,
5 or
they just
less.
said it won't.
Well, I'm
No, no.
sorry, I misunderstood. If the rate goes under 5, we will not, but
Right.
he's absolutely right. If it's $6 and then next week it goes to 5.25, yes, it goes down. So it's gonna go down until it's less than 5. I misunderstood what you were asking, Dennis.
But even if it's under $5.
If it's under 5, these
stays
numbers are
the
what
same.
they are.
Stays.
And that's when he said goes down, I assumed he meant under 5, that was my
Yeah.
mistake.
I used the wrong,
No, that's good, Lee
Analogy.
clarified, thank you.
The other thing to keep in mind, I believe there's gonna be a question about going out to bid,
Regarding,
snow removal.
yes, so that could
So,
change it. It
that
might not be
will-
those,
that will-
right?
A lot of this is related to snow removal, I don't know how much, but I would imagine a significant amount. And if we go out to bid, this is sort of a moot point.
well, the summer work, there's still affect the summer.
Well, that's what I said, the snow plowing, I thought, I'm sorry, maybe you didn't hear me. I said the snow plowing, which I think is a material part of the fuel cost, that this warrant would no longer apply to that. This article would no longer apply to that.
Does anyone have any questions they want? Okay. There's, next article.
This is the town will vote to appropriate all funds received from the state for snowmobile registration revenue to local snowmobile clubs for maintaining the trails on condition that these trails are open to the public for outdoors recreation purposes at no charge. SOP.
What, approximately how much is that?
I believe last year it was $3,000. It's a portion of the registration fees, it's based on what the state gives us back.
The portion that they donated to the snowmobile trails?
Well, so we send our monthly reports in every month for the full snowmobile registration fee. And at the end of the season, the state sends us a revenue check back based on a portion of the registrations we did for snowmobiles. That amount gets turned over to any club that has registered with us in advance.
And so what was that amount last year?
I feel like it was a couple thousand, Joe, but I'll have that number
All
for
right,
you on
that's all
Wednesday. Well, no, I'll have it for you on Wednesday, just to be sure.
I can look at it.
Okay. Next article, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to solicit bids, negotiate, execute contracts not to exceed 3 years for winter road maintenance. Said contract will be awarded to the best qualified bidders. The town further authorizes the select board to accept or reject any and all bids if necessary.
I'd like to have a clarification made about whether the town will be liable for sand and salt. I seem to recall that at the last select board meeting, it was said that the town would be liable for it. But when I met with the road commissioner and the liaison, I believe they said that the contractor was gonna be liable for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume there was, maybe it wasn't all having the same conversation, because it definitely, all surrounding towns that do that buy the sand and salt.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Acton,
All right.
Acton would continue to buy it,
Like I
yeah.
said, I just wanted a clarification on that.
At the meeting, Will said that
He
the
did.
town would be responsible, but if there's question, let's clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll double check that.
Yeah, no, Will did say that at the meeting, that the town would be responsible.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, you know, in the
Oh, yeah.
liaison meeting,
Yep.
it was stated otherwise, so, I mean, in either way, we're gonna pay it either way.
Sure.
We're either gonna pay the contract or we're gonna buy it,
Right.
so
It's
it's,
gonna be paid,
We probably get a better, we
Imagine
probably
this.
get a better rate.
I would admit we'll probably get a better rate,
yeah.
but also there's a practical implication, depending on where they would have to go to get sand and salt in the middle of a storm, as opposed to right here in town.
I think they'd still store it there, just a matter of who would buy it and ship it in.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
and it's also, you know, for our residents too. I mean, a lot of our residents,
Yeah, we're definitely getting a better price, and to have a contractor try to estimate what that could be in a year would be a nightmare, so.
Would the contractor be responsible for loading the trucks?
Yes, they load, well, yeah, let me rephrase it, in neighboring towns, they load their own truck, but I will,
With
Put
their
that on the list
own, with their own loader.
with their own loaders, or there's usually a shared one that they've all agreed upon. You know, as my years as selectman in Shapley, that's how they did it, that's how Alfred does it. But I'll add that to the list of questions for clarification.
No, but I mean, it should be included, because it might, there's a
In
gap
the
there.
contract, I'm sure those words,
The sand's there, and then maybe they figured that, you know, you have to be really specific on this.
yep, and I trust that the board will put that in the contract, but we'll bring it up on Wednesday.
Who's gonna be involved in, the writing of the contract?
So the board of selectmen will put their drafts together. I trust that they will certainly hear any opinions that you have. You know, you being the one in finance, legal will write it. We are already requesting neighboring towns' contracts. If the point is going to, will the road commissioner be involved? The same conversation I had with him, it will be extremely limited. Certainly, we don't know if he is going to bid on it, so he can't write the contract if it's gonna be something that he bids on, so we will be very careful when it comes to that.
Is the road committee gonna be involved in that at all?
Great question for the board of selectmen, and I'll add for Wednesday night.
If this follows through, goes through to, for contract, what's the role of the road commission gonna be for that 6 months of the year?
So it's gonna depend on how the contract is written. In some towns, the road commissioner still pushes back intersections. He may, you know, he's still gonna do his everyday job. Should it be, you know, replacing stop signs, or, you know, I'm not sure if they're gonna include the parking lots. I mean, that's really, you know, has yet to be determined. It's all gonna come down to how much is put in the contract and how much the town wants to pay.
There's also the stockpiling of the sand and the salt, so
Right, good
would that have to
point.
be done by the road
That he
commission?
would have to do regardless,
The
correct?
road commission would.
The road
then-
commissioner would definitely do that.
Okay,
Does it include the parking lots for this?
That's, the board hasn't made that decision on how the contract's gonna be worded,
Okay.
so I don't wanna speak on their behalf.
In Shapley, it's separated out. From Shapley, it's a separate bid.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this article?
No.
Well,
And this is simply to see if the town authorizes
Right.
this, and the money will come later.
So
Correct.
that'll be at the
Yeah.
June meeting.
Well, yeah, some later in a winter article and then the rest.
Okay.
All right, the next article, are you done?
you know, I guess my concern with this at this point is to make a recommendation on it. I would want to see how it's contracted, what's in the contract. Different contracts have different things, you know, some towns, might say you gotta go out and pre-treat the road, some people, might say you don't go out unless we get 2 inches of snow. And in this town especially, we had one just this year. At my house, we got roughly 2 inches of snow, and Acton Ridge got 6. So how does all that work? All of
So-
it, I mean, it's all such a variable.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I, you know, without speaking to the full board, I mean, I trust that they're not gonna write a contract that's going to put the town of Acton in jeopardy. I mean, they know what they have now with the elected road commissioner and his responsibility of plowing. They're not gonna put stipulations in there that allows a contractor to go out at 5 or 6 inches. I mean, we've got some, you know, we'll get input from neighboring towns, they'll certainly possibly ask the public, but you know, the chair of the the chair of the select board, you know, has a lot of experience in these contracts, and he's not going to present something that's gonna put the town of Acton at risk with roads. So, you know, I understand that you wanna see the contract ahead of time, but it's a massive amount of work, it's a cost to the taxpayers with legal. We're just trying to put a feeler out there per the road commissioner's request to see if it's something the town will entertain.
What would happen if you don't like any of the bids?
They would go back out to bid.
So would it be possible if we don't get contracts that you think are workable, that we would just go back to the way we're doing it?
Yeah, I mean, the road commissioner is, you know, is obligated under state law to maintain the roads, so that's always a possible fallback.
I would think typically the road commissioner would come up with the specifications that have to be met by the bid. There is an inherent conflict of interest if he's bidding on it. And I guess the value we have is that we have a chair board, a board of selectmen, who could take on the role of establishing the parameters of the bid.
And I know I said that he's, you know, I trust the board will listen to the road commissioner's recommendations, but we have to be very careful and transparent that, you know, any contract is not geared towards any individual. So, you know, they're going to listen to his recommendations. He knows the roads, you know, well, but
Right.
perfect point with Mr. Winchell. Between the two of them and neighboring towns' examples, we can learn from what is working for them and what's not,
Right.
and present a contract accordingly.
That's an issue for the town, but I'd say it's also an issue for Will, that we don't wanna put him in a position where he could be subject to criticism in the future, because we drew him into it more than we should have.
Valid point.
Hmm?
Valid point.
There was some chatter about this before, but I haven't seen anything in a warrant about putting the two districts together.
That's gonna be on the June ballot. It's not, hasn't been listed on, what you've seen presented from the budget because it's not a financial, you know, it doesn't have a financial impact as far as the presentations that we're making, what's approved in April and what's approved in June. I mean, but it is the board's intention still to put it on the June ballot.
Okay.
Is the intent of the Board of Selectmen to put out a bid for the whole town, or break it up into districts?
That decision has not been made yet. I believe, from what I've heard, it's gonna be 2 districts, but we'll add that to Wednesday's question list.
I'm all set.
All done? Next article, see if the town will vote to reduce the amount to be raised by taxation for fiscal year 2025, 2026 by anticipated municipal revenues to be received during the year, and to use funds from the general fund's unassigned fund balance to further reduce the amount to be raised by taxation. Then it goes on, municipal includes excise tax, intergovernmental revenues, federal, state, county, and grants and subsidies, license permits, fees, charges for services, i.e. rescue services, and all other miscellaneous non-tax revenues, e.g. Interest and penalties, investment earnings, etc. Now, that's a mouthful, but I think you just,
This is boilerplate.
it's boilerplate, just read the article as it's written, and it's what we've
It's a
all
housekeeping
seen.
article, yeah, that is required for the select board to use those revenues in any unassigned fund balance, offset taxes
Right.
when we commit in the fall.
Very much,
To determine what to use, and I said,
It to allow you the responsibility
Allows
and
us to use
it,
it.
it doesn't set an amount.
yeah, it's SOP, again. Standing operating procedure. Okay. Same thing, I'll read the article, then if you would please look at it yourselves, and as the money is allocated to each use. Municipal budget articles. Article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,135,134 for general government. Listed underneath, you see, starting with governing bodies,
You don't need to read all that.
and I'm not gonna read it all. Please read it, and
But what are people's thoughts?
This is on the governing body, which is the selectmen, this is a 4.5% increase to the taxpayers. Right?
That's with the 1%
No,
state tax.
the cost,
They have a 1% tax.
The other percent,
People
Joe,
staying home.
is increase in the Social Security and stuff like that.
On top of the 3.5.
But no, the three
It's
and a half
covering the whole
percent,
thing.
the 1%, I think Joe's talking about is the 1% for the, paid leave.
Paid.
You know, the town's supposed to pay 0.5%, and the town decided to pick up the other 0.5%, which would be a whole percent. I questioned that at the selectmen meeting, and Tom said it was actually benefits, but in this case, they don't get benefits, so it's in their salary. That's my understanding.
They don't get benefits.
Does that make sense?
No, they don't get insurance.
Give us a
and all
moment,
that.
Dennis.
Who's that?
Medical insurance.
Are you seeing
Selectmen.
that?
Selectmen.
Oh, the selectmen, yeah.
61,140? And
that's-
in the budget document, it was 60.
On the page 61,140.
Jennifer, on the municipal management, what,
They're still looking for something, Joe.
oh,
You're just don't get all that.
I got an old
Yeah,
copy.
we must.
Well, something got added there. It,
Alright, so general government is up 0.04%. If you look at the governing body, we can go down through them, but it is 0.04%. If you take the 1,110,000 versus the 1,135,000, it is down 0.4%.
But Jen, there's a couple of things that were put in the last budget that skews that number. The $30,000 contingency fund and the one-time land purchase of $45,000. So that skews that number.
Well, the contingency
Dennis,
fund only
excuse
got
me a moment.
moved.
Dennis, is that what you were referring to? Are you
No,
talking about the governing body budget?
Right,
the governing body is 61,140,
Yeah,
which is
okay.
the selectmen's.
I,
And I said that was an increase to the taxpayers of 4.5%.
yeah, I'm looking at detail here, and it shows the elected official salary line
Yeah,
is going up 3.5%. So I can only assume that it has something to do with the benefits that are going up at a different rate. So it's not salary, it's benefits.
that's what I said.
That's,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't hear you.
No, I said that I believed it was like Social Security and
Oh,
stuff
okay,
like
fine.
that.
I thought you had
cover
a
that.
question there. Sorry.
So, now Leslie brought it up. I'll get
Right.
confirmation on it. The 1% deal, you guys aren't under that, the select board of selectmen. Is that true?
I believe they're, the
The
ones
1%.
that PLMLA, the new.
Yeah.
The
I
new
believe
state
it is.
I
thing.
believe it is.
I believe it is, Dennis.
Okay.
Yes, if you go to the budget breakdown, you will see PFMLA, so you've got your budget packets, on page 4, the top one is governing body. You'll see that the salary went up 3.5%, Social Security 3.5%, Medicare 3.6, and the PFML is the $563, so it is part of the 4.5%.
The office assistant, that's 2 people.
Correct.
Should add an S.
Office assistants, good, thank you.
Could I get the salary numbers for each one of the employees, please?
Sure.
For the office assistants or for others, Dennis?
Office assistants.
Okay.
And then I'd also like to have the same thing on the 2 salaries for land use. It's the same question I asked the school on
Yeah,
that
land use, breakdown of salaries, good.
it
administration.
was in the other paper.
it's in the other
But this
paper,
is a
isn't it?
different figure.
All employees are figured on well, no, I guess they're not, a 3.5%
Yeah,
based on their salary.
right, they're not all, because for example, one of the assistants, is going through training, and there is an increase in there, so that when he or she reaches the level to be able to be left alone in the building, just we give merit increases, just like we do as a code officer, the land use secretary, who's now completed all 10 of his trainings, there's merit, so as the employee finishes the training, there's incentive to stay.
I think I understood, when you presented the budget originally, that, you were budgeting an extra $1 an hour for all employees based on merit.
Not every employee, no. I'll have to-
Hourly employees?
No. There were some merit raises, but not all of them. Some are trained where they should be, and they're only getting the 3.5%. I didn't bring that breakdown, but I'll have it for you on Wednesday.
All right.
What, the municipal management, what does that entail?
Municipal management is the Director of Technology, Unemployment, Workers' Comp, Health Insurance, Social Security, Medicare, PFML for that employee, other employee benefits, postage, heating, fuel, employee training, dues and memberships, accounting, legal, audit, drug testing, lien cost, alarm maintenance, electricity, telephone, building repair and maintenance, trio, equipment repairs and maintenance, lawn care, liability, insurance, printing, computer equipment, tax abatements, write-off, miscellaneous, and the Goat Hill.
If you look on page 4 of the budget breakdown that we got before, you'll see it. And am I right, Jennifer? A lot of those things you have no control over.
Correct.
They just are what they are.
Yeah. I mean, our software rental, drug testing, postage keeps going up. I mean, heating, fuel, we've got a good contract. Trio assessing, I mean, there's
Health
just,
insurance.
you know.
Health insurance.
Yeah, there are very few, I'm the Director of Technology and one employee in there, we've got the 3.5%. Other than that, Joyce, it's a good point. I mean, Goat Hill, lawn care, we go to bid, electricity, CMP, or who else, I mean. you know,
Mark Roy's in that number two, yes.
I'm sorry?
Mark Roy's in that number two.
Mark Roy is in the finance line, I believe. Let me just
Yeah.
check that. What did we put him in finance? Oh, and I'm sorry, he's in the accounting, yeah, you're right, Dennis, under accounting, yep. Second to last one on page 4.
Page 7 on this.
I'm sorry?
Page 7 on the budget thing.
How many people on health insurance on the municipal management, is that, what, 150?
I'd have to get that
We
information.
don't,
I mean, they're
we can find
based
out
on,
for you,
yeah,
but.
based
All right,
on.
well, no, I'm trying to, well, as I said in the past, it's a medical plan.
It depends on which one they take.
If you want to.
Mhm.
I know we have a breakdown that we did to put numbers in each one of these lines, so I'll have that for you on Wednesday.
And what is the, budgeted for the increase in the medical insurance for this year?
I believe the insurance estimated 8 to 10%, so we went on with
8%?
8 to 10%. I believe
8 to 10.
we stuck on the lower end of 8% and crossed our fingers,
You budgeted on the lower end?
yes, of the increase.
Have you pulled the vehicle out of this particular?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So any
We also
questions
pulled
I
off-
have about that should
Will be
wait
June,
until
yeah.
June?
What was it?
The vehicle, the municipal vehicle, yep, it's pulled out. You won't find it in the breakdown of your budget line. And mileage is also pulled, so if the car fails, we'll need to use that contingency fund to pay for mileage for staff.
And mileage has gone up to 70
Up to
cents.
70 cents, correct.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
just to put things a little bit in perspective, ever since my husband has retired, we've carried long-term care for him.
Mhm.
We were paying $129 quarterly. The bill just came up. We are now paying $468 quarterly. So any kind of insurance for health or medical,
Going up.
throw your hands up, let it be. It is what it is.
We have insurance, it's medical insurance, it's full family. And is it 2-person, then a single subscriber?
Correct. And I believe it's a single subscriber, family and spouse, and then full individual, the individual and spouse, or the entire family.
Right, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
Could I have the prices for all of them,
sure, for,
those three
those three
Yeah.
classifications.
three weight, rates.
I'm just gonna say this at this point, I'm struggling with, our increasing budget, and I know that everyone is trying to keep the budget down.
Which
But-
increased budget are you referencing? 'Cause
I'm speaking in general,
okay, so we're down 8.6%,
so,
just the articles passed in April.
our senior citizens are getting squeezed.
That's why we're down 8.6%. I think that's impressive, that we've, you know, the town articles are down 8.6%.
I think
We
if
don't
you,
wanna
I think
squeeze
if
them.
you've got specific things you'd like to see cut, maybe you ought to put those to the select board in writing, and we'll consider them.
Yeah, I just think it's something that, you know, there's always discussion about how the employees are being hit by inflation, and, you know, they need help, and, you know, this and that. But there's very little to no talk about how these budgets are affecting the elderly taxpayers who are getting 2.5%, and part of that clawed back by Medicare premium increases. So I think that we need to keep that at the forefront of our mind also, right along with what we're looking at for employees. I mean, I briefly glanced at what Wayne had submitted, and I wholeheartedly support the fire department, but there has to be a balance somewhere, and I just at this point want to.
You know, I couldn't agree more with you about especially the senior citizens, but I don't think it's just senior citizens. I think many people are having a difficult time
Oh, they are.
making ends meet. And quite frankly, I think in the last 2 years, this year and last year, the board has taken that challenge on and has reduced the municipal budget. We're doing it again this year. So while everyone else's budget, I think you look around, most are going up. I think Acton's done a nice job of keeping its budget in line. But as I'll say it again, if you have something specific you'd like to see done, or you'd like us to consider, please bring it forward and we'll discuss it.
And I don't want it to, you know, what I'm saying to be taken as a criticism, because
No, I'm not taking it that
it's
way.
not intended to be, because I was here last year, and I know how difficult decisions were
Sure.
made. And,
But as you say that, I mean, you must appreciate that the board is presenting to you an 8.6% decrease. I mean, the town has an 8.6% decrease, so they hear you and they don't wanna squeeze the seniors. I mean, and that's exactly why you're sitting there with that decrease in front of you. I mean, I think that's impressive. Acton has one of the lowest tax rates around, the best unassigned fund balance. I'm the chair of the finance committee in Chapley. I can tell you what, an 8.6% decrease on your municipal appropriations is impressive. I mean, in my opinion, you know, you should be commending the board and the departments for coming in. I mean, yes, they gave a 3.5% increase, but they found other places to level it out. So your overall budget is down 8.6%. That's a big number.
But there's a big part of that is because they moved some stuff out of the existing budget and put it off till June.
No, I mean, other than the sheriff's contract is the only thing. So if you look at the June referendum, I mean, the ambulance wasn't in there, municipal vehicle wasn't in there, the snow plowing wasn't in there, the sheriff contract wasn't in there. So we can put Tom on the spot and say, okay, Tom, if we, right now, we have a $374,000 decrease. If we make that just $300,000, because we put the sheriff 74,000, what is it, 77,000 back in, we're still gonna be at least a 3 or 4 or 5% decrease, right? I mean, that's the only thing we took out.
But what you're asking for, I guess, and I'm not gonna argue with your numbers, but what I'm saying is, stuff that we normally would vote on at the annual town meeting, which I'm calling this the annual town meeting, even though I realize it's really June. But the total dollar amount that we're gonna be asking for, your numbers say that if everything is done, that the municipal end is going up around 14%.
I don't
I
know
have
where
no
you're
idea
getting
where
that
you get
14%.
If you wanna share that with us, Dennis, I'm happy
It
to
was
look at it.
the paperwork you guys gave us,
So do you have this
I don't
budget
recall seeing
packet in front of you?
14% change.
was 14.5 or something.
No, do we have any, I've got extra copies, but you
You
should have
including
these.
the ambulance?
Include everything. 'Cause that's what we have to pay for.
If
Well,
everything,
yeah, it's,
No, he's saying that we're
I
pulling
think
them
part
out.
of it might be the capital expenditures.
No, that's very well, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm just saying that if everything passes,
Right.
what we've been
Well,
told.
it's got a $600,000 ambulance, it's
Right.
got municipal vehicle for $35,000, it's got a snow plowing contract for $800,000. Let's
For
not
3
forget that the road commissioner came to us and said, we are the only one who is not contracting out. When we do, it's gonna cost us more. I don't know what we can do about that, Dennis, and, so there are some very big numbers in there that the voters are gonna have to choose on. But the core budget itself
Right.
is down. And so, voters will make their choice about what they wanna do. Do they want an ambulance? Do they wanna contract out snow? And if not, take the risk that, you know, the road agent may not be interested in snow plowing anymore, because he can't make any money on it. I think that's what the bottom line is. When you got a winter when there's no snow, he's losing money.
The department heads work very hard they appreciate the salary increase, and they work very hard to lower their budgets in other places so that they can get the increases moved forward by the board. I appreciate what you're saying, Dennis, and I agree with the sheriff deputy, that's the only article. So if you look at what I just gave you, our budget's down $374,000. So the only thing that's not in there that normally is the sheriff contract. So at best, you can take $77,000, so we're still down $300,000. The other items are extra, just like the school last year. You had 7 or 8 articles, all these extra things to spend. The voters decided what they wanted to do, but for this April warrant, I mean, it's a decrease.
And at the end of that special warrant article they had was considered part of the increase in the school operating budget, okay? If this stuff passes, it's all part of the operating budget of the municipality.
Right, and that's where we'll show the 14% increase, just like we said, when we have public hearings on the June articles.
That's what I meant.
Right, okay, but what's in
And I
front of you
got the
now?
information from
We
you
don't
guys.
even know, I'm sorry, Tom, we don't even know at this point if the board is gonna support all of these June items.
There's $1 million in here consisting of an ambulance and funding 3 years of snow plowing.
I
Let's not
understand all
forget
that,
that.
Tom.
No, I'm just saying, it's covering 3 years of snow plowing, because we wanna make sure when we award the contractor knows that we have the money set aside for it. We're not gonna be expending that until those 2 out years. So there's a huge amount of money here that is discretionary that the voters are gonna get to choose on. But
I don't see why we have to fund 3 years.
And we
No,
may
it's fine.
not, we're gonna have public hearings, Dennis, we're gonna have public hearings, the board's gonna discuss this. I can't stress enough that what's in front of you is that April warrant. The board has made no decisions. We've heard Mr. Norwood clearly say that he doesn't support one of these items. Still don't know which one that is.
Yeah.
They're gonna talk about that once we get through this article. So it's possible, Dennis, that they may end up going with just one. It's just, with 1-year contract. It's possible that, the municipal car might not even make it. The ambulance might not make it. We don't know at this point. All we can do is address what's in front of us and the 8.6% decrease that you have on the warrant. I mean, that's all that's fair at this point until the board decides what's moving forward in June.
The other point I was going to make, from my understanding about the snowplow contracts, is that we flatlined the snow plowing from the past year. So it's roughly, round figures, $250,000. And that the estimate going forward is $350,000 a year. So there could be potentially, if you were looking on an annual basis, $100,000 shortfall of what we're budgeting versus what could be anticipated for 1 year's worth of snowplow.
that's my understanding as well.
so if that snow plowing 3-year contract for $800,000 is approved, what happens next year?
You won't appropriate any money for winter maintenance.
So then there'd be a possibility,
Let me say that the board has not discussed this concept of
Worst
how it
case.
gets presented in the budget and what gets approved this year. Let me just say, there are various opinions and thoughts on that. And so you'll hear some of us just talk about that Wednesday night. You're certainly free to
Not
chime
Wednesday,
in.
so we're gonna get through the April warrant. We're not,
Okay.
we're not until we get this
You'll
warrant
hear us
done.
talk about that,
Eventually.
all right? And there are differences of opinion about it, and
Good.
I'm sure we'll get to a point where we need to get.
There are a lot of good reasons not to do a one-year contract, and they'll talk about that when the time comes, according to some of the members.
According to some of the members.
I guess my issue is that we're gonna decide to do it before we know any of the details.
Okay, and that's a valid
It
point,
doesn't
so
make any sense.
make a
Yes.
recommendation to vote it down.
that's why I asked the question, if the selectmen don't like the contracts that come in, if, would it be a possibility to stay doing what we're doing? That's why I asked that question.
It says right in the article, if they,
They
well,
have
it
the right
doesn't
to-
quite say if they don't like it, but for any reason, they can throw all the bids out and start over.
But they don't have to.
But
No,
they-
but then you
but
can
they-
vote down the amount in June.
But they have, yeah, vote
You
it
know,
down in June.
I don't wanna get too detailed. This is a complicated issue, because this issue was brought to us by the road agent.
Yeah,
And he's up for election this year.
yeah.
So he has a particular point of view on this that we just have to, not gonna drive us, but we have to be mindful of.
Well, I appreciate the opinion of the road commissioner on it.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing at all, I'm just asking questions about the process.
Sure.
Yeah, I made a good list here, so we'll certainly
And I-
address those.
I understand why he wants to do what he wants to do. I understand that. Anything else on general government? I didn't have any questions. Are we all set with that? All right, okay. And article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $2,110 for health and welfare, which consists of the health officer and general assistance. Any questions, comments? No?
I seem to remember something about general assistance. Are we really doing that anymore?
Well, we absolutely do. I just had an application last week, as a matter of fact. We are required by law to allow people to apply for general assistance.
Okay, if we're required by law, then we
We
need
are
to have
required by
the
law.
money
There's a
there.
notice on the front door that references a state statute, and we are required to take applications anytime the town hall is open. And they just actually changed the requirement. They used to require we put a personal cell phone that we reach 24/7. They've changed that now that the applicant after hours has to contact the sheriff's department, who then calls me.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
Acton's been very blessed with the Neighbors Helping Neighbors. We haven't paid out of it.
I
but
guess
we're
that's
certainly-
where,
yeah.
what I'm
I
thinking
try
about.
to utilize that if I can, if people get in a one-time situation. It's a lot of paperwork for general assistance. It's hard to,
Yeah,
it's hard to qualify for it.
Yep.
You know, if you're by yourself, some of our elderly that are just on social security, you're over income. And I'm not gonna tell them I'm not gonna give them fuel. So we jump from
Absolutely.
general assistance to Neighbors Helping Neighbors.
yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
All right. Next article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,032,113 for public safety. That consists of the fire department, animal control, emergency management, and other public safety. What's the other public safety?
I'm sorry.
What's the other public safety?
Sheriff,
The
Yeah,
sheriff.
they took the sheriff out of here.
Yeah, that dropped from a little, yeah. Hold on, Thomas talking, it's his fault. Paying attention. All right, so there's the fire department, other public safety, deputy services, which is zeroed out, I'm on page 11 of your budget packet, dispatch services, street lights, EMA tower release, and a miscellaneous.
We have so many streetlights, we tend to forget about.
We have to pay them. Dispatch services. EMA tower release, we see an increase there because the person that we have the agreement with, when it expired after 10 years, presented the board with an increase.
that, fire department number is an arbitrary number because it hasn't been decided yet, is that right?
The fire department number is based on the original budget submitted by the fire chief, based on the staff that he has. So, as you heard what I heard Wednesday night, we have some new numbers that the board is going to talk about on Wednesday, but that is a solid number based on what he originally submitted to me.
The public safety basically is the lease of the land
Yes,
for the,
the Blueberry Hill Tower.
Blueberry Hill, you know.
Yeah.
Any questions on this article?
Does that just serve for the Acton Fire Department, does that serve for the sheriff's also?
I believe that there's a channel that, they can utilize as well, being the county and state. But I would defer that question to the chief, so I'll double check for Wednesday. Who can utilize that tower?
Well, can't even the superintendent, he has a
I believe
special
so,
radio
yes.
that he can as well.
Is there any possibility of subleasing off the tower?
So there's been conversations about, relocating the tower, there's been, conversations about, purchasing the land. There were some discussions that, contractual discussions going on regarding that.
Anything else? Next article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $205,000 for summer roads. $100,000 for each district and $5,000 for flat ground. Anything on that? No? All right, next article. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $409,747 for winter roads. $126,811 for each district, plus $156,125 for the salt and sand stockpile. And that's why I asked who was gonna be responsible for the salt and sand.
I believe the intention is the town of Acton.
Okay. Any questions on that one?
This is why I raised the question about the 100,000.
Yeah,
I mean, if I think a 3-year contract is gonna run us around 800,000 net, I didn't know if it would be appropriate, just throwing it out, to increase this to what the expectations would be for a 1-year contract, and then reduce the amount in June by whatever you increase this by, so that this number more appropriately looks like will cover the snow removal for the year.
The conversations that I had with the chair, I mean, that's, at the end of the day, the contract is, it's gonna add up together whether we appropriate in April or June. This is the same amount as last year, and they don't want to put a number before the townspeople, with us assuming that it's gonna pass, and that's why we've raised it. So we just left it at what it is, what the road commissioner requested. If the change happens, we'll budget accordingly afterwards, but so when we raise it now, it looks like we're assuming that, it's gonna pass, and it might not, so.
And that way, if.
We don't wanna make the
if article-
decision for you, so we can fall back on the regular number.
I guess the question I'm asking is this a realistic amount of money to cover snow removal?
Yes, that's the same amount that he had last year. That's his
I
number.
think what he's asking is should it be inflated for cost increase, is that right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if this is a realistic number for 1 year, we shouldn't be doing 3-year contracts that are gonna cost us another 100,000 per
Well,
year going forward.
That might be a valid point when you vote, but this is, that number has worked for,
Let's put the question to, I think your question is $252,000 adequate to cover snow plowing next year?
yes.
So let's put the question to the road
And
commissioner.
how do we reconcile, if this is the number, how do we reconcile why it's necessary to go up so much for a 3-year contract?
Well, it's going to a fixed price contract that is probably what's creating the increase. Contracting it out and having a fixed price contract is what's causing the increase. Does that make sense?
sort of.
And remember, this is,
Well,
winter is one of those that it could go up. I mean, he's budgeted on that based on the winters we've had for the last couple of years, but he's got the right to go over it, you know, if it runs out,
I'm
so.
just concerned that your contingency doesn't even cover the potential increase.
Well, we don't have to use the contingency. If he goes over for winter maintenance, that in general assistance, he's allowed to legally go over. And it would be on the
By an
next,
amount,
it would be on the next warrant. He's allowed, so let's forget about the contract for a second. If we just have a terrible winter and it goes over the 126, he's allowed to go over that number to maintain the roads for public safety.
Period.
I don't believe in 24, we expended anywhere near that.
We expended 117,059,
Per district,
correct.
so.
Oh, 100, yeah.
But then you
92
run
more.
into the problem, we have late years of snow,
Right.
and people don't want, they're not, the plow guys aren't making the money. You know, you're protecting yourself with a contract because you have that coverage no matter whether you get a little bit of snow or you get a lot of snow.
And I know this isn't the right place to discuss it, but you're talking a huge premium to lock a price for a 3-year period, a huge premium over current costs.
I don't think the town on its own would be pursuing this. I know I wouldn't be.
Just,
However, I believe the road commissioner has brought this forward.
yep.
I respect his position. I think suggested in him bringing that forward is some question about his ability to continue with the current design or function. Look, I don't want to speak too much about it because I really don't know.
That's why I raised the question.
Other than, no, I think the question
Precisely.
should be put to the road commissioner. I mean, we're simply acting, an elected official, we're acting on his recommendation.
We will invite him to Wednesday's meeting so that certainly Dennis had some valid points on that one, as do you, and we'll bring him in to better discuss that.
I mean, I know that, I mean, I live on a private road, so we have to pay for our own road to be plowed. And we use a contract.
Right.
And it's a whole lot better knowing that what your costs are for the year as opposed to not knowing.
Valid points for our discussion on Wednesday and at town meeting. It'll be interesting to see how it
It's
goes.
gonna be an interesting one.
It's gonna be very interesting.
Anything else on the winter roads? No? Okay. And to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $581,400 for other public works. The Public Works Building, $21,138, transfer station, $553.06. Other public works, dams, $7,256. My only question on that was, what was the dams last year?
So dams, repair and maintenance, we have 750 that we send to Newfield. And then the Mousom Watershed Dam went from 6,380 to 6,506, a 2% increase.
Alright, so that's why it's 72?
I'm sorry, no, it actually went down, let's go back.
I thought it did.
No, it didn't.
It didn't?
No, actuals in '24 were 6,600, it went down to 6,380, we spent all of it, it's now at 6,506,
Okay.
so.
I thought our
I
share of the contract was 5,000 a year.
That's what I thought it was
It's
too.
25%.
It's 25%, yeah, overall.
Well, it's two different issues, right? We have the contract, which is 5,000.
Mhm.
And
Well, if they put it forward, I don't think they put they didn't move the money forward for the Sanford Coalition. Did they not move forward the, reserve? They had Lee, you would know more about this,
And the other part was for maintenance.
yes. I will pull
It's
their,
been a while since we've had a meeting.
I'll pull all the paperwork that we have on that and give you more of a detail on Wednesday.
Who chairs that committee now?
Sanford, doesn't he still?
No, Adele.
Oh, excellent. We can reach out. We do have the budget that she sent over, so we'll get a breakdown for you for Wednesday.
The figure on the transfer station, is that encompass the new rates possibly?
Yes, when we sat down, Ed and I and the superintendent sat down, we already had an idea. The companies, the demo goes up essentially about the same amount each year. So we pulled 4 years worth, we figured out what his per ton increase was, we based it on another increase, and we calculated that. The removal of the MSW, our contract has been expired for almost a year now, and the company has kept the rates where they were. They've given us notice several months ago to essentially say, listen, contract's been expired, we gotta do something. I'm telling him we're gonna go out to bid. He told me what the fees were gonna be, should we go out to bid. So, and then when we had the process, they were exactly what we thought. So this is the highest worst case. As you know, with Ed's help, we are now back out to bid, looking at the possible Rochester fill station. So obviously the board's not gonna go with them if the numbers aren't lower. So these numbers are our worst case highest based on the 2 bids we got the first time we went out.
Okay, so on the demo, you're upping not only the rates, but the amount and it's anticipated?
We upped it based on his increase of the bid that came in from the company.
Mhm.
And we took the last year's demo and put a percentual increase on it. As you know from attending the select board meetings, so there's a very good chance that the board may consider some sort of fee schedule if it continues to rise, especially with demo. So we're not there yet, but they're watching it closely.
Anything else?
Did you need a breakdown of any of these employees? Rates, hours, increases? No, just the office.
Well, you went up $1 plus the 3.5, is that correct?
On those, yes, but there's
Yeah.
also a fill-in for some summer months scheduled there, so I wasn't sure if you had that breakdown.
To be consistent, I guess, yes, Jen. I would like to.
And we did, the first time we did municipal, we have it accessible, so
Yeah.
happy to show you again.
All right, the next article, to see if the town will vote to liquidate and transfer to the general fund $1,804 from the Conservation Committee Reserve Fund. Current balance is $1927, and the entire balances of the APAC Capital Reserve Fund, current balance $8,343. Recreation Reserve Fund, current balance $30,620. And the Veterans Cemetery Reserve Fund, current balance $940. Further, to see if the town will vote to raise $21,210 and appropriate the sum of those amounts, $62,917, for parks, culture, and recreation. So conservation, we get 500, forestry, 1304, Acton Public Access TV, 16,699, recreation, 34,414, and the cemetery, 10,000. Do we have a plan from the cemetery department committee yet?
So we are still communicating with Maine Municipal. Initial emails appear that they are not going to recommend some of these large pieces of power equipment such as chainsaws. The conversations that the liaison, Mr. Dennekamp, has had with the cemetery chair is that we're gonna move forward the same amount. They understand that if the insurance company comes back with, not recommending it, then they'll use that money to outsource it with a company that has insurance and workers' comp, just like we do everything else. So still requesting the same amount, and haven't decided which way it's gonna go, depending on the legal opinion in the end.
It's not going for a trailer.
At this point, the board hasn't made a decision, but I would lean towards no.
The question was, what is their plan? What are they gonna do? I mean, what are they gonna do with this money? Are they gonna
Well, they have,
cut down trees in a certain cemetery, or what's their plan?
yep,
for-
so if you're looking for a specific list of the cemeteries that are gonna be worked on, I can certainly get that for you.
Okay.
I think we asked, I don't think they had one You can
I-
ask,
yeah,
but
I
don't,
think
I
they
don't
were,
think that, I
yeah.
think we asked the question, and I think they said
They were primarily looking for the
they
trailer
don't have
and
it yet,
equipment,
they're working on
and
it.
they were gonna do their best. Now that things are shifted some, they may have to reconsider a plan.
Okay.
What's gonna happen to the 10,000 that they have in their fund balance?
So the other 10,000 that you don't see listed here whatsoever is the account that the board is gonna hear more information on Wednesday. If you go back into audits, back into the even 90s, as far as we can find them on hand so far, those are accounts, we've gotta figure out where the money originally came from. This is several different cemeteries over the years, combined into one account that can only be spent, the interest
It's
can
all
only be
the
spent.
trust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right now, Dennis, they're not doing anything with it. That money can't be touched until we can figure out exactly where it came from, how long it's been there, and what the interest over the years has been. That's why it's not included in this article.
So that would just carry over anyway?
Yeah, until we can tie down where it came from, the
Yeah.
donations. And unfortunately, they don't, at the time, they didn't do it at town meeting, so I don't have warrants that I can review. So we're doing bank statements and audits and
What,
lots of digging.
what derives at the dollar amount for acting public TV? That's
To our
16,669.
Breakdown, yep. So we have a stipend position for what we call our non-supervisory wages. We have an employee that receives a flat stipend a week based on, when this was changed over, we took a look at the total amount of videos that she did for the year. We broke it down, and this, so she gets a weekly stipend, so that has a 3.5% increase.
What's
So
that stipend, Jim?
Do a quick math.
Must be around 8,000.
So 92, 93 divided by 53. That look right?
Yeah.
About $175 a week, give or
Okay.
take. I'll get you an exact amount, but I took last year's
A
budget
week?
amount
A
divided by
month?
53 weeks.
Sorry?
It's weekly.
700 a week?
No,
Not
175.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Well,
Yeah.
I want that.
So
Yeah.
we,
We
so
have
we
much
base
more money in
that
that account.
on, yeah, no, so we base it on,
No, that's fine.
having to do the rec games, the school meetings, things that don't go time, we average that she does 2 or 3, we took the original stipend that she was getting,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
well, I'm fine with it, I just didn't know what it came.
Yeah.
Right,
That's-
right.
that's the math we
Right.
did. So anyways, I'm sorry you asked, so Medicare, PFMLA, FM, office supplies, he zeroed out. Minor equipment, he dropped drastically, and contracted professional services, those are our newsletter fees, and other computer fees,
Yeah.
and the telephone,
No, I'm fine with all
we took
that.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
You had asked where the 16 came from, so I was
Yeah.
just answering it.
I'm just wondering on the conservation committee, in removing that amount of money from there, in the future, they're gonna need some money for signs, which will probably exceed the $500.
Yeah, so we actually, Mr. Benjamin was in my office this past week, and we ordered the signs that he requested, went a little over the $300 that he currently had, but he was content with the purchase, and there was an increase from 300 to 500. So he's in good shape, the signs have been ordered.
They've been ordered, but what money did you use? What was existing there?
We used the current budget, he hadn't, the Conservation Committee hadn't spent their current 24 budget,
Okay.
24, 25.
So in the future, if they want to do something, they have to what?
Well, they have $500, so it's like any
Apart
committee.
from the $500.
Yeah, like any committee, if they have an increased need, certainly all they need to do is come to the board and discuss it. But that's, as I understand from their meetings, what they came up with for number.
I think we would expect them, if they had an increased need, to proceed that and put it in their budget and get it approved, and like everyone else.
Well, yeah, but this whole committee is being jump-started from many years have not really been.
Right, but it was your committee that at a meeting, you guys increased it from $300 to $500, so there is an increase from last year. We moved forward the number that your committee voted on.
Okay.
So
Now,
if they
I'm just-
needed more, we certainly would have moved that number forward, but that's what they presented us with.
Anything else on this article?
I had a question regarding the liquidation of the general fund and why the current balance is higher. Is there an outstanding check or something?
Say it again, Lee.
The general fund, 1804, from the conservation reserve fund, current balance 1927.
Yeah, so what we did on that one is, if you go to the next article, we took the difference and put it towards their forest management plan. So instead of just putting in the unassigned fund balance, we wanted it to go towards something that was tied to their committee.
Okay.
All right, so any other questions on this article? Okay, the next one, to see if the town will vote to liquidate and transfer to the general fund the remaining balance of the Conservation Committee Reserve Fund. Balance after previous article passes 123. And the entire balance of the Forestry Reserve Fund, current balance $480. Further, to see if the town will vote to raise $677 and appropriate the sum of those amounts, $1,280, to update the forest management plan on town forest land located at tax map 254, lot 5, located on Hebo Road. Any questions?
No.
Anyone? No? All right. Next article, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate $98,755 for outside organizations.
Is that the new number that when the selectmen went through this, is that the new number total?
Yes, it is.
I just have one comment. I say it every year, and you guys are probably sick of hearing it, you know what I'm gonna say.
Go ahead.
The library is on town property. They don't pay rent, they don't pay utilities. This is actually part of the town's donation, even though they are not liable for those costs. It should be disclosed. I've had individuals say to me, well, it would be too difficult to calculate it. Well, just because it's difficult doesn't mean it
What do
shouldn't
you,
be.
I guess I don't understand, what do you mean it's, I mean,
It'd
they're
be
their
too
own
difficult,
entity. They're
too
their own-
difficult to calculate what their share would be.
Well, no, I mean, they're their own entity, they have they provide, and it was in your original, social service packet that was 400 pages, they provide a budget of what their total operating budget is, how much they get from the town, how much they get from other agencies.
I don't know, I understand, but do they, you know, they're in our building, do they pay us rent?
No, they don't,
Do they pay heat?
no,
Do they pay electric?
they don't pay anything, you're right.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking
So what is
about.
it you'd like to see, it be
I would
its
just-
own warrant article?
No, I just would like to see a
In
disclosure.
other words, charge them and increase their appropriation?
Or,
I mean, is that what you're suggesting?
no,
Nothing wrong with that,
I'm just
by the way.
suggesting disclosing it, that's
It's
all.
full
What
disclosure, I
the
don't have a
approximate cost would be, because that is part of our donation to them.
Okay.
So, I mean, like I said, I've said it every year, and,
Yeah,
yeah,
But then
It's
perhaps,
actually good accounting, Leslie.
you're right.
It's an in-kind contribution.
then their contribution to the town of free Wi-Fi, you know, we'll take that into consideration.
So,
I'm
and
saying-
I'm not saying that we should charge them,
No,
I'm not saying
I understand
that.
what you're
It's
saying,
just-
it's a valid point.
Full disclosure.
So, we'll just leave it at that. Jennifer, I did note it on here, you can just do whatever.
Oh, I got my list for Wednesday. I'm skipping the ones I feel like we've answered.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if I didn't reiterate what I'll have it for you on Wednesday, I didn't write it down.
There you go.
My page is full, so.
Next, anyone else have anything on the social services? Lee?
No.
Joe? Lori?
No.
Joyce?
Nope.
Dennis?
No.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 for a contingency.
So the contingency fund, so that's the increase from the, what was it, 31,000, Tom, last year, give or take?
Yeah, it was something like 31,000.
Am I the only one with a concern about oversight?
No, I think they were on articles ought to be written the same.
So you're looking for the board to consider putting a warrant and finance recommendation before they expend the contingency fund, or are we?
Or put a dollar, have a dollar amount that if you go over that dollar amount, ask for.
I don't remember this coming up last year, and I could be wrong, but when we voted on the contingency, not at the special, because that just moved it, but the first one, didn't seem to be any concerns. What's changed? Are we unhappy with how the board spent the money? I mean, at this point, we haven't spent it.
No.
Yeah, no, I think it's the dollar amount,
Just going from 30 to 50?
yeah.
I gotta tell you, I think for the size of the budget, a $50,000 contingency is pretty small, and it requires the Board of Selectmen to sign off on the advance, and that's your check and balance.
Let me say also, because I was the one that brought this up last year and again this year. Last year you saw, look, we've had a surplus for a number of years. Last year, rather than an increase, we actually decreased. And you gotta look at the delta between those two, and that was a real decrease. This year, rather than an increase, we're decreasing. And we're trying to take out of the budget those, that surplus that was obviously embedded in the budget. As we're doing that, I'm mindful that we could have some unforeseen, consequences when we try to cut this budget this much. So that was the reason for having the contingency, rather than having it spread all over the place and no one knew what it was and how much was being spent or not spent. At least this will create transparency around it.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, Tom. I think where I'm getting stuck on is contingency, and how do you define that? And
Anything that's unforeseen. I
Okay,
mean,
outside
it
of
really
that,
is.
I mean, outside of the
It's
warrant article.
anything that, if you're gonna it's like the transfer station. That would be an appropriate use of the contingency.
oh, and yeah, and
Yeah,
so I think that that's just like a nebulous thing that could entail anything, and I think that's what's making me a little uncomfortable.
let's say we have a storm and we got a cleanup to do and we need to advance some money to clean it up.
I mean, I
I
can
don't know, you
recognize,
could go through a list of those things that,
How
it's.
about a pump that goes on the fire truck?
Yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of things that
What
can go
about
wrong.
but something, I mean, that should settle your minds a little bit, and I understand and appreciate where you're coming from, but something that should settle your minds some is looking at that, 15,000 from the first article, or 10,000 from the first article we looked at, looking at the history of the Board of Selectmen, and when they, the fact that they haven't used it, and they've had the authority to. So this board is very, financially frugal, and they're not gonna spend it unless it's something that the town of Acton needs. Just like when the pump went, or something went with one of the fire department trucks, what do they say to the department head? Fix it out of your regular budget, we'll
Right.
watch the line for, closely, and if we need to, address it as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we will, and we stand by that. So they're not gonna spend it just to spend it. I mean, they already have excess revenues in most of the departments, so it's,
Yeah.
I mean, not intentionally, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's,
So I mean, it's just that just the dollar amount and the
But on
Is
that
that on our
same,
list to talk about?
on that same premise, we really don't need that account. Because we can try to find the money within the department, and if we can't make it, we'll appropriate more money later in the year.
well, but it
Why, a
depends,
special
because if the
town meeting?
I know, but what if it's
Well,
a
April,
transfer
I mean,
station?
We still got 3-4 months left.
What if the
in year.
furnace goes in
Well,
this
right, but
building?
if the transfer station, we would have had to shut the transfer station down.
That's what we ran into last year, we had to have a special town meeting.
I think it's pretty clear what it is and why we want it. I would suggest that if you have concerns with it, you bring it up Wednesday night. And the board may reconsider it. Let's talk about it.
Reword it some, I'll add it to the list.
all right. Next article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $9,000 to the existing private road association fund to help in preventing storm runoff pollution from reaching great ponds.
I will start, if it's okay, by telling you that this is on Wednesday's agenda to discuss with the liaison out last week, and the questions that came up, I've brought that over so that you can ask those questions that weren't answered last week. As far as, the amounts and the concerns that you had.
Well, that's on the 9,000 list.
That's on the 9,000, yeah, this is for Article 43.
Why isn't that money just put in the Article 43 account? Instead of the private road association.
Well, because it's
fund.
really
We
no
never
longer-
had- We've never had that before.
Well, I know, because it's really no longer Article 43. I mean, we called it Article 43 because back in 2016, 17, 18, whenever it was allocated, it happened to be that warrant article, but it could be confusing, That article, created a $50,000 private road association fund we reference it as Article 43, but since then, it's never been.
I'll tell you what, when we get a number on it and it's Article 22,
No.
we'll name it 22.
We can't do that.
No, that's-
Yeah, no, everyone knows it as Article 43.
That's misleading because
Right.
everybody knows
It's the private road association fund,
that Article 43 was what it was called.
right?
And when you change what it's called, then that's where it's gonna be confusing.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll ask the board if they'll consider adding the words, absolutely.
And the Article 43 account was a statutory account formed by the town meeting.
I understand that.
And the only way you can do away with that account is by a vote at town meeting.
Right, but if there's no money in it, it dissolves itself.
But the account still
Doesn't
sits
the
there.
account,
Yeah, we'll agree to disagree on that. We have a legal opinion and an opinion from Mr. Roy from the financial stance on how that works, but nevertheless, we all know it's the
I
same
would
money.
like to see the answers on that.
All right.
Is there a limit on the amount, like 3,000 per,
The
Road.
board has set policy that yes, the max any
so
road
it's
can
3
get
per,
is 3,000 per
project.
year, per
Yeah.
fiscal year,
Yeah.
right? Fiscal year.
for a fiscal year, yes.
So this goes back to what I said at the special town meeting, the way that was worded. As of June 30th, that fund would disappear.
I believe based on the warrant article, if you read the special town meeting warrant article, doesn't it
I did
clearly
say- I
say, it?
did.
Yeah, and doesn't it
And I
say
brought
it'll
that
dissolve?
question up.
I'm sorry?
I brought that question up back then.
My understanding
happened
is the
with that?
money, the money goes back to the undesignated fund, but the statutory account will exist forever until
More money is
it's
put into it.
dissolved. No, until it's dissolved by town meeting.
More money is put, right.
You didn't, we never, that money in that account lapses every year.
No, it doesn't.
Yes,
No.
it does. Otherwise, you wouldn't
That's-
have the
that's-
money in it that you've had in it.
It does, the money does not lapse because,
It stays in that account.
yes,
That's what I'm saying.
you said it lapsed.
Well, whatever.
He means
I'm
lapse
not
in the
an
same
account.
account, lapse in the same account, he means.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
And
rolls
this
over.
year-
It rolls over to the next
okay,
year
but this year, it's not going to.
because of the way the article was written.
The voters should have made a motion to change the wording of the article. It passed like that, and according to the opinions we've gotten, the board had the right to write it that way.
No, I understand that, Jen, and I brought up the question, and I was told by administration that I was wrong.
Okay, so
Okay,
did
and
you,
apparently I was really right,
okay,
or it would have been a bigger issue at the special town meeting.
Now, this article doesn't say it lapsed, it rolls back over,
No, it doesn't.
so.
It'll
this-
go away
this
every
will-
year.
No, this will stay, if this 9,000 passes, it will stay there until it's expended.
Or at the end of the year,
No,
it'll go
no,
into
no.
the underneath fund.
It doesn't say that.
They all do.
They do not. This
Okay.
is a statutory fund. That was the whole purpose of this being set up, as a statutory, so it would not lapse.
all right, so I'll provide some legal opinions come Wednesday, and we'll answer that.
But they just cleaned it out. At the end of the year, they cleaned it
No,
out.
they didn't, oh, Dennis,
Can I ask you
this
a
was
question?
established in 2018. We had $50,000 in it that over the years
I
was
understand that.
assessed.
I understand that.
If it lapsed, the money wouldn't have been there.
But
don't
in the
think he
warrant
means
article we
lapsed.
did, the special,
Only
it doesn't stay there.
Right, that one didn't. But the
This
initial.
is the same thing.
No, it doesn't say that. It will revert back. It doesn't say that.
May I ask a question? What is a statutory account?
A statute,
Go ahead.
I've heard that used a number of times. I don't know what it is. What makes it a statutory account?
It was made at town meeting.
Well, then we have lots of statutory accounts, is that what you're saying?
I don't believe all these accounts were created at town meeting.
But if they're created at town meeting, the technical term is to call them a statutory account?
Yes. That's my understanding.
There's a lot of different opinions on this. Like I said, if you look at how the statutory, the article, what he's trying to say is that the article of the special town meeting was worded completely different than this one. This, I mean, it was a statutory reserve that rolls, that you either spend it or lose it, the way it was written. And legal reserve, they wrote that article.
And it was
What is it you
approved by
wanna see?
legal.
You wanna make sure that the money is rolled over, if it's
I
not spent.
want to make sure that money stays in that account.
Okay, so I will get an opinion for you. I've already got a couple on the article itself. I will find out
So
exactly what
there's-
the difference is.
Yeah, My understanding is that any money that is put into that account stays there because of the designation of how it was established.
I'll get you an opinion.
We had $9,000 at a special town meeting put into the account
I know,
for,
Dennis.
for half the year. Let me finish. For half the year,
Mark it and write it down.
right? The second half of the year. This was recommended by the road committee. And
It
that's where the
wasn't
number
rec- it
came
was-
from.
It wasn't recommended to have it lapse, no. by
I'm
the
not,
road
I'm not
committee.
saying that.
Using the same
My point is,
This one's different.
if we appropriate 9,000 for half a year,
legal money.
why are we just appropriate 9,000 for a full year? Why isn't it 18,000?
That's what I said at the selectmen meeting last week.
It sounds like Jen's gonna contact council,
Yes.
try to get an answer, and we can talk more about it on Wednesday, unless you feel there's something else we need to talk more about. I don't know what we can do yet tonight.
All right.
That makes it the statutory.
And what I'm saying is that we can do that here.
To see if the town will vote to establish a reserve fund called Hawk Road Project Fund and to raise and appropriate $39,000 to the fund for the purpose of reclaiming and paving a portion of Hawk Road 700 feet from Route 109. Any funds remaining in this account after the completion of the repair or no later than June 30th, 2027 shall be returned to the general fund's unassigned fund balance and the fund shall be dissolved. Any comments?
When we've done these in the past, we had I think it was in the article, to have up to 2 years to finish a project.
Well, that's
This
what
is
this
2
said.
years,
Does.
Says
2027.
2027.
It's fine.
Okay.
I missed it. I'm eating human, you know?
Okay. Anything else? Next article, to see if the town will vote to establish a reserve fund called the Lebanon Road Project Fund. Further, to see if the town will vote to liquidate and transfer to the general fund the road capital and the LRAP fund, current balance $48,388. And to see if the town will vote to raise $328,312 and appropriate the sum of those amounts, $376,700, to the Lebanon Road Fund, Project Fund for the purpose of reclaiming and paving the portion of Lebanon Road, 4,200 feet heading south from the Shapley Town Line to the Sanford Town Line. 2.5-inch base and 1-inch service and shoulder gravel. Any funds remaining in this account after the completion of the repair or no later than June 30th, 2027 shall be returned to the general fund's unassigned fund balance and the fund shall be dissolved.
Same thing.
Anything?
That road desperately needs work, it's been neglected for a long time.
Well, Adam spent half the summer down there this last summer. And
On Lebanon or
Yes.
Scarlet?
yes, he worked on that when there was fixing the dam down in Mousom.
What did he do to it?
He did a bunch of shoulder work, replacing culverts, and I don't know the details anymore, Joe. And I'm not against spending the money to fix
No,
it.
well, it's part of Acton, I mean, it's kind of
Any questions? All right, next article, to see if the town will vote to liquidate $20,000 of the earned paid leave fund, current balance $25,000, back to the general fund's unassigned fund balance. Anything on this one? No? Okay. To see if the town will vote to liquidate the Bridge and Culverts Capital Fund, current balance $105,301 back to the general fund's unassigned fund balance. Comments?
Why? We still have a bridge that's not in the greatest of shape. The one I like to call the road bridge. But,
And we've already spent $20,000 to have an engineering report done on this bridge.
yeah, so
that,
I'm just,
um,
you know, it doesn't always come out with the greatest of reports on the bridge, greatest numbers on the bridge report. I frankly haven't seen one, a bridge report, probably since
Well,
last
I think you
year.
have different opinions. Tom McGurty talked to a bridge ranger who was and then Will talked to like a bridge engineer.
Yeah, I know.
They had two different
I know there were two
bridge-
different
the
opinions.
bridge-
opinions of the thing,
The
so.
bridge ranger came here and said, it needed work, but it wasn't at the critical point, is what the
Yes.
bridge ranger said.
Right,
I think that this article, just keep in mind that this is one of the articles that Mark Roy recommended to the board to liquidate, so that when we put our capital plan together for town-wide, you know, he just didn't think that you needed it, because it was gonna be an overall, but remember that the select board haven't gone over these articles, so they'll decide tomorrow night if they agree on that. There's been some talk from one or two of them about leaving it, so, you know, we really should hear from the road liaison
This is a general bridge and culvert
for any, right?
for any, and I'm not sure why we need that unless, if we have a specific bridge, like road bridge that needs to be done, I would hope we would appropriate money for that, put it in an account for that purpose, rather than having money just laying around
yeah,
That's what
without
we're
any
trying to-
designated purpose. That's why it's being closed out.
okay.
It's not saying that we wouldn't be supportive of doing the road bridge.
No, I never
Trying
thought.
to do the capital plan and
We're just trying to
Capital
close
plan.
out all these accounts that really,
have them in
are
use.
just laying around.
That-
Makes sense, makes sense.
That dollar amount was created and done for the purpose that you just stated, Tom. We had put, I think it was 25,000 a year in it or something,
Yeah?
towards replacing a large culvert or bridge, so that it didn't cost the taxpayers the total dollar amount all at once, so there wouldn't be a big jump in the taxes because of a project. That's why it was started.
Okay, all right.
And
But was that specifically for row or more generally?
No,
In
No.
general.
Generally?
No,
bridge
We
and
had-
culvert,
We had
Yeah,
three
okay.
bridges that needed to be
we
addressed.
didn't have any of the bridges done at that point.
Yeah, yeah, okay, all right.
And
The other issue, I guess, that I would have, Maine Municipal has said things that needed to be done down there. And, which would be above and beyond the normal, summer maintenance money. Guardrails and different things like that,
Yeah.
and I don't remember the whole list. So, if you're going to do what MMA said we needed to do, I would think that you'd find a cost from the road commissioner to do whatever MMA said, and you could use this money to fund that project for the bridge and culvert.
Okay,
And I don't think in defense of the road commissioner, I don't think he probably hasn't thought of that letter
No,
that
probably
Jen,
not.
you read, I forget when it was,
I don't know.
last summer or
Dennis,
something.
it's just an opinion of mine. I don't like reserve accounts just laying around without a specific purpose for them. I prefer, if you wanna do something, appropriate the money, put it in a reserve account. When you're done, if there's money left over, put it back. And not just have general purpose reserve accounts sitting around in the event we might need them. That's what we've got undesignated reserves for.
well, like Dennis said,
That's
this
just
this
my
was,
opinion.
this was set up because we at that point, we had three bridges that
Yeah,
needed to be
yeah.
addressed.
And we
So
dealt
we've
with-
gotten two
Yeah.
done, so it's, I agree with Dennis, why dissolve it now when we need to do something with their bridge? And shouldn't we be looking at what needs to be done?
Well, aren't we relying on the road commissioner to prioritize road projects, and he's laid out his plan for the coming year?
That's not a road project.
That's,
That's something different.
Bridges are
It's bridges and culverts. It's something completely different.
but since
So he's laid out his operating plan for the coming year,
Yeah.
whether it's roads or bridges, and the budget reflects his needs for the coming year.
No, this is
But
above and beyond.
this is,
So
this is
you think,
Just like the square pond thing, that was nothing to do with the road commission's budget.
and the canal bridge was not part of their budgets. It was a
but
separate,
this isn't like the H road,
no,
No,
no.
not even,
not
not at
even
all.
close.
And actually, if you look at the road commissioner ordinance that the town of Acton adopted in 2018, one of the first items on there is the road commissioner will be in charge of repair to all town roads, town ways, and town bridges
Yeah.
within the town under the direction of the majority of the selectmen. So, to answer
And the
your question.
recommendation of the road committee. It's in their ordinance too.
Well, maybe in theirs, but yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to prove the point that, yes, it's road commissioner's responsibility, we'll correct that.
No, I
But
appreciate
it's
that.
it's not in his budget, his yearly budget.
Yeah,
for-
he didn't make a request for it, but he does oversee them per his ordinance.
Well, since I brought it up, I would like to say this, that I understand what Tom was saying, that if this money is put in a capital reserve to be used in a priority sense, wherever it may be necessary, is better than just having it sitting over here, waiting for something to happen that may or may not happen. You know, and if a bridge crumbles, it's not gonna be enough money anyway, you know?
No, it's not.
No,
Well, we know the bridge isn't capable,
no, we know, but, you know,
you know what I mean? If it was fit to be using, they wouldn't have the Hopper Road posted for weight limits.
oh, yeah,
I mean, they never posted West Shore for weight limits.
but
And
the
it
road
was determined that, that needed to be fixed, so it's gonna collapse. And I just don't see the difference.
Yeah, did the state post that, or did the town?
The state mandated that be posted.
They did mandate, did they
Yes.
put the signs up, the town put the signs up?
Town put the signs
Well, the
up.
town put the signs down, but the state told them that they had to.
No,
Did they? I'm sure I think they did.
they have, not the road.
No, I don't think, I
And the
think
bridge isn't
it
posted.
was the state.
It should, it's
It was
supposed
the town
to
that
be.
did
It
that.
So
isn't.
you guys are
The,
saying,
the state did the other one,
Never
over
has
there
been.
by Milton Mills, the one that's actually collapsing.
are you saying the road commissioner is not prioritizing it properly?
No, I'm
No.
not saying any of that at all.
No.
no,
All I'm saying is, if the bridge is bad enough, so you gotta put a weight limit on the road entering to the bridge, okay, then we should be addressing the bridge. We've addressed the other two, so why not?
I think
We've
that-
already paid the engineer for the thing
Right.
on the bridge, we paid $20,000 for it.
These are good points for the road commissioner, because I'm gonna read you another step of his job description in the ordinance voted on by this town. The road commissioner shall inspect all town roads, ways, and town bridges each year and report to the selectmen and the road committee the status of any needing repairs by November 1st of each year. So in that statute, it makes him responsible, and if he hasn't made that presentation to the road committee or the select board, you know, we should address those questions to him.
So we shouldn't consider the shortfalls that MMA considered because the road commissioner didn't.
I think it's a conversation we need to have with the road commissioner before
Has
making
the
that.
road commissioner been made aware of the
If an-
MMA recommendations?
If an opinion came in regarding any department, it definitely went to the department head. One-
Did you see
Absolutely.
it, Jennifer?
I don't know what
I'm
he's
not,
talking about.
I'm not aware of what
But
Dennis
not to
is
say it
talking
doesn't
about.
exist, I just have.
I'm
to-
fine with that.
I feel-
On his
What was that,
maintenance
Dennis?
projects, he lists.
I said I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
For
I'll look for what he's
2025.
talking about.
So
Yeah.
he's looking at it.
he's looking at it,
Well,
that's
he's
right.
doing,
I
yeah,
just saw that too.
cement work.
Concrete work, so.
Yeah,
He's
the
done, he's
concrete-
done good.
concrete
It's
work,
been
right.
neglected, probably. A lot of these projects have been neglected, they're just,
actually looking for room.
Oh, I just was looking for it too.
The federal sufficiency rating is 27.5 out of 100.
It's on the survey.
So,
No, it's, that's what the
Pretty low.
federal sufficiency rating is.
Yeah, it's very, very low.
Um,
But it is in Will's, you have the
Maintenance
page up,
for this year, yeah.
and it's maintenance for this year.
Mhm.
what is,
What part
The
of it?
bridge, concrete work.
for
on
summer,
that,
men,
on Road
summer
Bridge.
maintenance?
It's a 2025 District 2 maintenance plan. It's
Okay.
I believe it's in there
listed on
to
there.
fix the
Concrete.
railings.
The concrete,
Yeah.
Concrete work.
He did bring it forward.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
we
The,
did one side a couple of years ago, the concrete part.
the substructure condition is poor, and there's advanced deterioration.
There is, yeah.
Date of inspection, 10/31/23. So they do rate the bridges every 2 years, so there should be another one this
This year.
fall.
I believe the most recent report acknowledged issues with the bridge.
Did we get a bad bridge letter? I think we
I
did.
don't know what we got, but I understand there was some issues in the last report.
I was just looking at the road assessment plan.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've known for a number of years that there's a serious problem with that bridge. I mean, like I said, we spent $20,000 on an engineer, just for that bridge.
Yeah.
So. Anything else on that? Then it goes into the school budget articles.
Yeah, we don't know any of that.
We don't know anything about that.
Yeah, those
Are
are
there-
just copy and pasted from last year, Paul's gonna give them to me, probably tomorrow, so
Yeah.
communicating with them with him.
Are there any other questions for Tom or Jennifer now?
Are these articles, these aren't articles that are written,
No, those are last year's, just as placeholders.
oh. We're gonna have about 15, probably 2 articles.
Yeah, as I understand from my emails with Paula this weekend, they'll have the regular operating one, and I believe only one extra one, but again, that was the first.
And we'll be making our recommendations on them Thursday.
That's the plan,
That's the plan, anyway, right?
yeah, yeah,
And as Lee would say, we follow the plan.
all right.
As long as we know what the plan is.
Just plan ahead.
Yeah, all right. Lori, do you have any other questions for Tom or Jennifer?
No,
No,
Joyce?
no, thank you.
Lee?
I'm
No,
all set.
very good.
Dennis?
Jennifer, thank you.
Almost set, thank you.
All right. Thank you for coming in.
Of course. Interested in the miscellaneous discussions.
You can watch the tape.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. All right. Anything anyone wants to talk about?
Whenever I participate in anything, there's always some interesting participation and conversation.
Any other discussion?
no more discussion.
Yeah, no? All right, meeting schedule. We have the Board of Selectmen on Wednesday. We have the school committee on Thursday. And we'll be doing the revenue portion. Good night, Tom, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
We'll be doing the revenue portion, and then we are supposed to be voting on the school articles on Thursday.
Yeah,
Next Monday, we should have, Jennifer, when, will we have the complete warrant?
Yes, yeah,
By
the
the
board will
weekend?
need to make any, they'll make any changes Wednesday night, and they need to be done with it.
Yeah, because we are scheduled to vote on the municipal part on Monday, which is the 10th.
yeah,
Hopefully we'll be done
Yes.
and we should be
And-
done.
for
Like,
a month anyway.
like I said, I did schedule a meeting on the 17th, just in case we need it, so.
We're gonna be done.
Yeah, I asked Jennifer if that was advisable. At least that way
Just in case.
we are on the books, so if we need it.
And so when are we supposed to get the school warrant?
We'll be voting on the school on Thursday,
This Thursday?
this Thursday,
So we
yeah.
don't have any information?
We don't, no,
But we'll have the full.
we'll have the full
Monday.
warrant.
Well, we're hoping to get the articles from her, I mean, we'll get them first, I'll insert them in your warrant, and then we'll discuss that whole thing Wednesday night. And then you'll get a fresh copy.
Yeah, and then we'll actually vote on the school articles Thursday. So on Monday, on the 10th, we just vote on the municipal. And hopefully, it'll be a complete done deal.
Mhm.
And then we'll see.
And then we start over again.
Yeah.
In April? End of April?
No, I'm thinking end of March, I mean, we need to have a public hearing on the June,
That's right.
we've got absentee ballots, we've got a full plate, so it's gonna be sooner than that. As soon as I get the April one signed, we're gonna be ready to go.
Well,
Alright.
it works for you, Jen.
So when should we start doing meetings for that?
Well, I mean, if the board, the thing is, I mean, the board we have to finalize this one, so even if we just skip a week or so, I mean, once the warrant is signed, your recommendations are on there, the selectmen's recommendation, the very next board meeting, I'm gonna have the June articles on there, so that we can start working on the warrant, figure out which ones they agree with. I mean, at this point, I don't even know if, those are just placeholders, we don't know, some of them may not make it on the ballot.
Until they make their decision, we got nothing to meet on.
Right.
Yeah, oh, I know.
You should have-
I just wanted to kind of have like a ballpark idea.
I'd say by
as to
the
when-
end of March, 1st of April at the latest.
Okay.
Yes, so I think,
But we gotta count backwards from the election on the 10th, so May 10th, so April, yeah.
yeah, so we ought to be just penciling in our schedules for our
Well,
meetings.
that's what I was thinking of,
Yeah.
because, I mean, Monday, sometimes Monday meetings can be tough.
Oh, Mondays are tough?
No, well, I mean, we've had to move a couple because, mostly because of holidays.
Right.
And then I think that someone wanted the Tuesday meeting that we had. So I just wanna make sure. that-
Pencil you into some Aprils, I mean, we can always, cancel them if it's not ready. I'd rather have them on there and
Exactly.
keep other committees off of the Mondays. just in
Yep.
case.
All right,
I'll pencil you in, and we'll just figure it out as you go, but at least it'll be on the books for our policy.
Yeah, that's a
Thank you,
great
Jen.
idea.
okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move, that we adjourn.
Nice second.
Second, all in favor?
Thank you, Jen.